Hello friends, my name is Hadassah Treu. I'm an award-winning Christian author, blogger and poet. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about leadership, about godly leadership, and I want to examine one biblical example of a godly leader and his leadership skills, and namely this is the biblical character of Job. So the topic of the today video is how to become godly leaders as God's friends. And our biblical character is Job. So have you truly considered the true basis of our leadership skills? What is this, what fuels and what helps us develop our leadership skills as godly leaders in our homes, ministries and communities? I want to highlight today the example of Job. Perhaps we associate Job with suffering, with tragedy, and we have him as an example of a person of faith, of a hero of faith, who actually endured an enormous tragedy and suffering and kept his faith till the end. But there is also another aspect of Job's personality, and this is the personality of a godly leader. And we find a very interesting set of leadership skills described in Job chapter 29, which is actually the chapter where Job puts his final claim of innocence and talks also about his friendship with God, lamenting the days when he thought he had the friendship of God. And this is a very interesting chapter I want now to highlight and discuss with you. So the first thing to notice is that Job had a treasure, and this treasure was his friendship with God. He was a friend of God and he considered God to be his friend. And this we read in verse 4, where it says God's friendship that rested on his tent. So God's friendship for Job meant that he was under God's protection, care, and that he enjoyed his provision and abundant blessings. So God's friendship had really profound effect on Job, on his character, on his attitude, on his relationships, and it turned him into a godly leader. And let's together now examine 7 leadership traits or skills that we find in this chapter. And this we find in the declarations that Job also said about himself. So what is the first leadership trait? It is not surprising that the first leadership skill is actually connected with love and with loving our neighbor. So the first leadership skill is to support, to take care of the weak and vulnerable. And at this time, and even now, the weakest and vulnerable members of the society were orphans and widows. And Job was definitely a one who supported and took care of the most vulnerable and weak members of the community. And this we read in verses 12 and 13. For I rescued the poor man who cried out for help, and the fatherless child who had no one to support him. The dying man blessed me, and I made the widow's heart rejoice. The second leadership skill we find in this chapter is making righteous and just decisions. So these righteous and just decisions are actually a result of living a pure and righteous life. And we read about this in verse 14. I clothed myself in righteousness and it enveloped me. My just decisions were like a robe and a turban. What a beautiful and poetic description. Leadership skill number 3 is reflecting the Father's heart. This means showing care, support, love, and meeting needs not only in the family, but also in the community. Not only taking care of the closest family members, but also strangers in the community in a broader sense. And this aspect was present in Job's life. We read about this in verse 16. I was a father to the needy, and I examined the case of the stranger. The fourth leadership skill is fighting injustice. Job hated injustice, and as a leader in his community, he was doing his best to promote justice whenever possible. And knowing God intimately as a holy, just, and righteous God will definitely also help us to fight injustice in our spheres of influence. And here is where we find this skill in verse 17. I shattered the fangs of the unjust and snatched the prey from his teeth. The fifth leadership skill is the ability to give wise counsel. So having intimate and close relationship and friendship with God enabled Job to give wisdom, direction, instructions to his community, and to be really able to be a very wise advisor who was able to give a vision and direction for his community. And we also, as carriers and inhabitants and temples of the Holy Spirit, we also have these abilities when we listen to God to accept from His wisdom and then to discharge and dispatch this wisdom in the form of a wise counsel, instruction, and direction. Here is what we read about this skill. Men listen to me with expectation, waiting silently for my advice. After a word from me, they did not speak again. My speech settled on them like dew. So we see that the wise counsel from Job was really highly valued in his community. Number 6 is taking responsibility as a leader. This is one of the most important leadership skills. And our relationship and friendship with God actually enables us to overcome our insecurities, our fears, and to make courageous steps forward, to be able to move forward, to live with courage, with enthusiasm, and also to lead and influence people with courage, enthusiasm, trusting God. And we read this in verse 25. I directed their course and presided as a chief. So Job was not afraid to take a stand and to direct the course and guide his community. And number 7 is being an encourager and comforter. And since God is our greatest encourager and comforter, it's only natural to develop this leadership skill and be also an encourager and comforter in our homes, ministries, workplaces, and communities. And Job was also such a man, and we find this information in verse 25. I lived as a king among his troops, like one who comforts those who mourn. And as temples of the Holy Spirit, of course, we can also receive from God encouragement and comfort and give this encouragement and comfort. So Job is a very inspiring example of a godly leader who actually was shaped as a leader by his friendship, intimate fellowship with God. And we can surely follow his example, we can surely follow in his steps and see that it is really our calling as God's friends to be also leaders, to lead with dignity, with love, with courage, with wisdom, with comfort and encouragement, taking care of the needy, taking care of the weak and the vulnerable in our communities. So will you let God's friendship shape you as a godly leader? I hope so, and I would be very happy if you like, comment and share this message if you really found it helpful. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so. I would be very happy. Thanks a lot for watching. Till next time.